The area of Larkfield and Braide is today as much a part of Greenock as the West End and Cathcart Street. However, this was not always the case. Examining the 1654 map of Scotland, you can assume that the area in general was known as Ala Mill and contained nothing but a vast array of rolling green hills mixed with thick muggy bogs. The land remained untouched for centuries until 1870, when the decision was made to erect the Smithton Poorhouse. Greenock's first poorhouse was based in the town centre on Captain Street, which opened in 1850 and closed in 1879 when it was deemed unfit for purpose. It was to be replaced by the Smithton Poorhouse, which was built in 1876 to house 750 inmates at the site on Inverclyde Road near Larkfield.
Housing schemes in the suburbs have been in progress for many years now. The site at Ochni is in a pleasant spot on a breezy hill shoulder with wide sunny streets and magnificent views north and west over the Clyde estuary to the Cowell Hills. It is still expanding, although its limit will soon be reached. It cannot be enlarged indefinitely, however, for open spaces and agriculture also have their claims upon the land. This bulldozer was employed in clearing the site at Larkfield, where a large area was acquired for housing. Work is now completed on roads, drainage and water supply, and another 800 houses will soon be in occupation. To build these houses, the latest methods of rapid construction were applied. In the short time since this film was made, the whole appearance of this scheme has changed. So rapidly can this type of house be constructed. Sir Frank Mears has prepared plans for an ideal scheme at Dunrod. A triangular area of about 200 acres has been selected as the most suitable site. It lies directly on the Weems Bay railway line and is on a small plateau above but concealed from the Inverclyde Road, so that it will in no way interfere with the amenities of the Kip Valley.
The Larkfield area remained somewhat underdeveloped through the early part of the 20th century. The east and the centre of the town was a cluttered mess of industry and housing as a result of expansion of business and the immigrants lured to the area. Conditions were further worsened by the influx of workers during World War II, resulting in mass overcrowding. It was around 1953 that many people began to move to the Braide area, leaving their homes in the central regions of Greenock. The upheaval was met with great enthusiasm due to the improved quality of housing they would soon be living in.
The whole development of Larkfield was a massive thing in Greenock. I mean, I remember where this new Inverclyde Academy now is situated. That was a huge sort of swampy waste ground that was eventually made into cinder football parks. My parents moved in 1953. When I left to go to the army, my parents stayed in Berrup Street. When I came back from the army, 1954, they had moved to 40 Dalriada Road, Braeside. The move was part of the clearances of the Greenock town centre. You would call it slum clearances because they were clearing out very old houses. But the idea was to clear the whole area.
I moved to Braeside when I think I was about 4 from the east end of Greenock, a place called Weir Street. We lived in a tenement property there. It was my mother, my father, my older brother, myself and my young sister who was just born, and my mother and father, we stayed with 2 uncles. So I think at that time they were maybe clearing out a lot of the east end. They were building a lot of new houses in Braeside and Larkfield. So obviously my mother had enough, as they called it in those days, points to be entitled to a house. So she was offered a house in Braeside.
Oh, I've got lots of great memories of growing up in Branchton. I mean, it's different from the way it is today. Branchton was, it was such a community, such a great community, but everybody knew each other, and it was safe, but it was a great community.
I stayed in Nairn Road at the school gate, which was Springfield School Gate, and I stayed there from when I was 4 to I was 22. Semi-detached house. Or it was on a terrace really, with a garden. Although the garden didn't have any soil in it when we got there. In fact, it didn't have any roads when we got there. But my mother was ecstatic, and she could look from her bedroom window and look right the way back into town. And I just remember her being really happy about it.
All I remember was when we went up at first to see the house, there was a lot of muck and planks and walkways into to view the houses. I remember when we moved up there was a lot of stairs to get to the house, but what I do remember was the freedom and the number of kids that were around, and you got to meet, there was kids in almost every house, so you built a lot of friendships and you had a lot of kids to play with and go places with.
Every day there was flittings and new arrivals and new neighbours, and you had people coming in and out, and I think we were the second family onto that row of houses, and then there was one family across the street, but we watched everybody coming in and it built up, and there was just hundreds of kids.
I mean, up in Brancton, it was a lot of, because of the type of scheme it was like family houses. It was a lot of family orientated. It was just brilliant, but there was kids everywhere.
Actually, people that stayed downstairs from us in East Ball Street stayed next door to us in Caithness Road, so that the community spirit was much the same.
There's people came from the Strone area, there's people came from Bevel Street area, there's people came from the Lower Town area. Greenock was built on a raised beach, so there was lots of people in these old tenements coming up, and they shot right up to the head of the hill, and there was rows and rows of them, Trafalgar Street and Ann Street and Captain Street, lots of streets. And these houses were all getting knocked down, people were getting shipped out of here. This is a massive scheme. It starts at Smithton and raises itself right up onto the hill here. Massive scheme.
People were happy about the housing. That was the very plus point. The minus point was that most of the people worked within almost walking distance of where they stayed, so that when they moved to Braeside, they were dependent on public transport, buses, queuing for buses and such like. So that made quite a big difference to the way of living.
The roads came later. The houses were built and then the roads were put in, and then the pavements were put in.
We had to walk from Smithton. That's a good walk up a very steep hill. So you had to walk from there up to Braeside to get your house. And if you're going to, if my mum had to go to the town or my dad was going to work, they had to walk down to Smithton to get a bus.
You felt you were really out of the town.
In the 1970s, Larkfield was further developed with companies such as IBM and National Semiconductor setting up manufacturing plants in the area, which today is known as Spangle Valley. With the industrial development has come a new wave of modern immigrants, bringing their own cultures, histories and traditions to Greenock.
Hi, I'm Olga Darach. So I came here about 10 years ago. I met my husband on holiday in Cyprus. He's from Greenock, and we've dated for about 3 years and then finally decided to move to Greenock. So we got married here in Tentin Hotel, and I've applied for a job in IBM and got a job. Originally I'm from Siberia, so it's far away from me, and it's a big difference for like the people wise. I'm from the big city, and here I found that people are really friendly and very welcoming. So I think it's very easy to blend with Scottish people, in general.
I am French. I'm coming from the north of France. I'm married to a woman from Canada, and I came here for work. Basically, we didn't find any job in France. It's very hard over there, and we had this opportunity to come here to work for IBM.
So I found myself like going to local celebrations like Robert Burns suppers and all this kind of stuff, and I find them very interesting.
Hi, my name is Karen and I'm from Germany, and I came over 5 years ago, and the reason was that I read an article in a paper that a lot of people from Berlin in Germany come to Ireland and Scotland to work. And I didn't have a steady job, I was self-employed, and from that moment on I kept saying if I can ever work and live in Scotland I'm going to do it. And then I just did it, and came over 5 years ago, super happy.
Hi. I'm Helen, and I'm from Sweden.
and I came to Scotland on a whim, really. I didn't have a job, I'd been travelling for a couple of years, and I just applied somewhere online, and someone called me up and said, do you want to come to Scotland? And I was like, maybe. Because I had been travelling around in all these exotic countries, and I just wanted sun and happiness, and I thought Scotland is just too rainy for me, I can't do it. But then I really didn't get another job, so there was a relocation package included as well. I was walking around in Largs, and they have all these places for the Vikings, and I thought this is my homeland. And I thought I'm instantly connected to this place.
I didn't know what was going to happen. I was only here for 10 days, and I arrived here and arrived in Largs, and I woke up the next morning and I walked down to the water, and I looked around and I was like, right, and that was it, really. I just feel so home here.
Throughout our research, we have counted 11 schools within the Larkfield area over time. However, some have since merged, some didn't even last over 20 years or so, and some are still standing today. The schools: Glenburn, Garville School for the Deaf, St Saviour's, Ernhill, Springfield, Larkfield, Sacred Heart, Ravenscraig, Ailey Mill, St Gabriel's and St Andrews have all stood in the Larkfield area, and today only a handful exist.
When we moved up to the top of Larkfield, there was no school in that area, and the nearest primary school was Ravenscraig Primary School, right down on the Inverclyde Road, which was quite a distance from where we stayed. I think Springfield School was built primarily for Larkfield, and the children from Brayside area continued attending Ravenscraig School.
There was lots of primary schools. When I lived in Niles Street before I moved out here, I went to a school called East Shaw Street, and I was there for just a matter of months. I went to school when I was 4, and then the next thing I was moved out here, and I went to a school called St Andrews, which is at the other side of the valley, so I had to walk from their road all the way down and all the way up to the other side. And I remember as a 5-year-old that was quite a journey, and you had to walk back. St Andrews has been renamed and moved to what used to be Larkfield Primary School. But all of those schools, every one of them are knocked down now. They're all gone.
23 years, I mean, I've been in the Southwest for that whole time. My whole career's been there, right from fresh-faced straight out of college. And although I remember vividly the very first day the council had told me that that's where I was going, I had no clue where Springfield Primary was. But once I was in, yeah, you felt instantly supported, instantly part of a family almost, which I didn't think I was ever going to get again. But I did when I went to Ravenscraig, and I do again in Ailey Mill, so it's obviously there. I think the support is just such a main part of the Southwest.
When I was involved as director and we were trying to modernise the school stock, that involved maybe upgrading the school, or in some cases merging schools, because the roll was dropping and every parent was fighting for their own school, didn't want change to happen. They saw the downside. But I think now that a lot of schools have been built and a lot of schools have been modernised, people are now appreciating what has been done in Inverclyde.
Well, I'm Isabel Lind and I'm head teacher of Ailey Mill Primary, but before that I was head teacher of Ravenscraig, and I've worked here in the southwest of Greenock for 27 years. And I've stayed here because of basically the friendships that I've made when in this part of the world. Very quickly when I arrived here, I built up a friendship with the denominational school, St Gabriel's, and we'd no sooner done that than we wanted to include Glenburn. That was the start of a relationship which has gone on to this day.
I've been at Glenburn as teacher, as principal teacher, as assistant head, and for the past 17 years as head teacher. I came here in 1976, so that's 37 years ago, and I'm still here and I'm still enjoying it. And I must say, one of the things that I totally value is the partnerships that we've had over the past 26 years with St Gabriel's and Ravenscraig, and even after the mergers. St Gabriel's Sacred Heart came together, and it's now St Andrews. The partnership we now have with St Andrews and Ravenscraig and Ernhill came together, so the partnership we now have with Ely Mill, I have valued that very, very strong partnership.
My name's Alan Connick, and I'm the head teacher here in St Andrews Primary. I've been the head teacher since summer of 2011. In this form and in this building, we're the amalgamation of Sacred Heart Primary and St Gabriel's Primary. Before that, Sacred Heart was already an amalgamation of St Andrews and St Saviour's primary schools. So it almost kind of, where we're one school now, we used to be three. We've become a real kind of valued part of the community. Obviously, the way even our catchment works, we're actually covering Larkfield, Branston and Braeside, whereas the schools before were maybe just one of the areas. So we sort of have worked to bring the three different areas together, obviously bringing the children from the three areas together.
Ely Mill, St Andrews and Glenburn Primary Schools have since formed a close partnership from being the only three schools in the Larkfield area, with Glenburn soon to be merging with Lilybank Primary and moving to a brand new campus in Port Glasgow. St Andrews and Ely Mill are disheartened to see them leave, but will themselves continue to work together within the community.
Fine. They need a new school, certainly need a new building. Me personally, I'd love to have seen it, the two of them built here or somewhere in the southwest, because the people know Glenburn, the people accept Glenburn, and it's part of the community. And that's how Ely Mill's accepted now, because it's two schools together and it's still in here, you know, and that's a big one. And still the same headmistress, Mrs Lind from Ravenscraig, who's in there, and she's absolutely brilliant.
We're trying to involve the community as much as we can in what we do. I think people from the area have been in the area for a long time. There's a lot of people who their whole families have come from that area and stayed there. I think the fact that the children stay and the parents stay and the grandparents stay, then they know the faces too, so it makes it easier.
Very, very strong partnership with the pupils in all schools, with the staff in all schools, and on a personal level. I think it's been a very unique partnership. I can't describe just how excellent that partnership has been to enhance the work of our school and to enhance the work of their schools as well.
Thinking of the partnership has been really important to me. You know, I was starting off really as my first sort of permanent post as a head teacher, and the other schools were very welcoming. And it was really working with the schools that just support me personally, and we help each other out. I'm very keen for us to be out and about, but not just to be seen, but actually to be doing something that's of good and of worth to the community.
So now we're St Andrews, Glenburn for the little while, and Ely Mill, working very, very closely in this part of the world. We like to think that at the southwest here it's a pretty special area, and I think that friendship among the schools has made it so. The work done with those schools here is the work of which I'm most proud.
To mark the end of Glenburn's era in Larkfield, pupils from all three schools have worked together to write a song about the area over a timeline.
another hooray. Hooray! Well done. That's great, boys and girls. Good for you.